Hello everybody, this is HG Shaves here. I'm back with another video. Hope this video finds you well. And if you are a relatively new viewer of my channel, thank you so much for joining us here. Feel free to leave a comment below and I'll be happy to reply with some sort of encouraging message, if you will. Before I forget, let's do the secret giveaway from last week's video. Anybody who wrote mesh jar in one of the comments from last week's video was eligible to win one of Spartium's wonderful aftershave lotions. And so let's go ahead and do that giveaway on YouTube comment picker site. Let's go ahead and do that now. Congrats to James. You are the winner of the Mesh Jar Aftershave Lotion. Please send me your shipping details to my email, which I'm going to put right here, hgshaves@gmail.com, and I'll get that out to you as soon as possible. So that was fun, and we'll hopefully do a few more of those in the future. So for today's shave, I decided to do kind of a classic shave, if you will. Let's start with the razor, which is perhaps the fanciest part of today's shave, and perhaps you saw from the picture, but this is a Ever Ready, and perhaps you could tell that it was a 1912 variation. However, this one is particularly special. It's a highly engraved, detailed sort of 1912. They call this the Sunray set. That's kind of a nickname. I think originally it was just sold as a chromium razor. And so, yeah, I do believe that that's all chromium on there. This would have been made sometime in maybe the 40s or 50s. And even the handle is slightly different and more ornate than the usual chain link handle that has the same kind of pattern as this. This case is interesting too, because if you notice, just one second. If you notice, the razor and blade banks are oriented that way, whereas usually they're oriented this way. Another cool thing about these blade banks here is that they lift up like that, which is kind of cool. And a pro tip for you all out there, the razor is tricky to find, and I think it's obvious to people when they, if you find this at like a flea market, people can tell that it is probably valuable because it's just so stunning. But the way I found the case was this was actually sold with a mismatched other kind of 1912 razor. And the way you know that this is well, you can just tell by looking at this that this is the Sunray case, but also because of this different handle, there's a little bit of like a groove here. I'm gonna be able to show that. But basically, if you put a regular 1912 in this case, it doesn't fit just right. Whereas with this handle, you can tell that it does. So anyway, that's the razor for today, which I think is quite cool. When you open it up, it's got the flip cap. It just says Ever Ready, British made. This razor was just out on loan to a friend and it returned. And I thought, darn, I would very much like to use that razor. Let's go ahead and put the PTFE blade in here. This has a few shaves on it. And that's what it looks like with the blade in there. So we'll talk about that razor more as we go. And then the other classic part of the shave is somehow in the move, I misplaced my puck of Colgate mug soap, and I'd used this soap previously on the channel, and so my friend who sent me back the razor also sent me a new puck of soap. Thank you so much if you're watching. And what I decided to do was let's just commit, and let's go ahead and put that puck of soap into this Old Spice mug. I've had this for a while, never really knew what to do with it, and somebody encouraged me, you should just commit to putting a puck of soap in there. So I really think that these Old Spice mugs are very cool. Maybe not too practical because you have to put, a specific size kind of cake of soap in there for it to really work. But, I was interesting when my mom came to visit maybe 2 months ago. She noticed that I had this sitting around, and she remembered that her dad used to have one of these, which I never knew. So that's the kind of cool things you can learn about your old family members, perhaps, if you keep something like this around. So I thought that was cool. And for the brush today, this is also one that was sent as a gift. So almost everything here was a gift. This is in Omega, or as the Brits say, Omega. I think they're closer to correct when they say Omega compared to us. But anyway, the Omega, it's an 8 something reference number. I'm gonna put that down below. Not reference number, I'm talking watches now. Model number, 8 something. This used to be sold at Maggard Razors, and then I think the model kind of got discontinued. So if you look up the Omega and then the number, there's only like one site in Belgium, I think, that still has these for sale. So it's kind of a typical loft for an Omega brush. They call it the fake badger because they dye the middle part of the hair to make it look like it's a freeband badger. But despite its kind of short and small stature, for bore brushes, this has a pretty good size knot. I think this is a 25mm knot. So it, has some good width to it. And anyway, let's get straight into the shave. I'm just gonna add a little bit of water to the tips of the brush, and then we're just gonna go in right here and start loading this Colgate soap. And there's really nothing to this. You just load the soap, and in the beginning here, it's sort of bubbly, but you just keep loading. And the puck might shift around on you if you haven't used it very much, which I haven't, but eventually it'll settle, and then you'll start getting some foamy business here, which is okay. You just, again, you keep loading basically, and there's just really not much to working up an old soap like this. There's not really much of a scent, which is okay. It doesn't smell bad. I think some people worry that these old soaps are just gonna somehow smell terrible, and they really don't. They just kind of lose their scent over time. Right, so that's gonna be more than enough to do a pass or two, and we'll probably have to go back to the cake in between passes, which is okay. Just gonna put some warm water on my face here. I used to do this before I clicked the button, and then for some reason I stopped doing that, so sorry. So let's take some of this Proto Lather, which is, again, quite foamy. This is not one of the vintage tallow-based soaps, as far as I know. They sold the Colgate mug and cup soap, and those were both, I think, basically the same formula, whereas they made a barber soap, which came in these like sleeves instead of little boxes like that. And I think those maybe did have tallow. So if you ever see a Colgate barber soap, those might be a little bit better. So let's just go ahead and start working up this first pass lather. This brush was used, I don't know, a couple dozen times by its previous owner before it was gifted to me. I think I said thank you to the person who sent it, right? This is the first Omega bore I've ever used. I've used Samog, Zenith, Sterling, but this is the first Omega that I've used. And depending who you talk to, some say these take forever to break in, like hundreds of shaves. I know some people who have literally used their brush hundreds of times and they feel like it's still not quite where it needs to be. And then you look at this brush, which has been used, a couple dozen times, and I can see a lot of split hairs. And I can tell you doing this is actually very comfortable. My only complaint is that I wish it were lofted, slightly lower, but it's really not a bad feeling, not at all. It's not terribly dense, but most of these aren't, but it's soft and it picks up soap very easily, and it distributes it pretty well also. So again, this is really it. I'm just gonna paint in a little more water, and then we'll start on this first pass in just a sec. All right, we're back, and this is our first pass result. Let's go in with the Everready Sunray 1912 first pass. Just making sure I've got the right angle here. I've only used this a couple times this week. I was providing some private feedback about a tester razor, and definitely enjoy using that razor, and hope I can share more info with you all about it in the future. And then also, I won't mention the name of the, well, I guess it's okay. I was using Barrister and Mann's Oceana, I'm not quite sure how you say that, soap and splash this week. They just recently re-released it a few months ago for the summer, I imagine, because it was previously only released in their Lather line of products years ago, which was kind of their budget entry-level option. Anyway, I like the scent enough. I actually have a bar soap of it in the shower at the moment that I've been working through for weeks, maybe a month now. But anyway, something in the soap and the splash just gave me the tingles a little bit. So some sort of fragrance reaction, which I hear is not terribly uncommon with kind of aquatic scents. That's just kind of the nature of the beast. We got some nice feedback, as you'd expect. But to be clear, does this shave any different than the $5 Gem Junior that started me off in this whole thing? Gem Junior 1912. No, not really. I mean, this is much prettier than that Gem Junior, because that Gem Junior, bless its heart, it's not looking too great these days. It's got maybe a little more heft to it because of the handle, but you can put a different handle on your little cheap Gem Junior. But really, the 1912s are just such nice razors, especially for somebody to start off on. It is kind of in that nice mid-range of vintage gem aggression. You can dial it back from here, you can dial it up. So very nice. Okay, I'm gonna rinse and come back in for pass number 2. All right, let's load up for pass number 2 here, and I won't be surprised if I need to go back to the puck a little bit. Okay, let's do our second pass across the grain. As I was mentioning, there is something nice about doing these kind of classic shaves. I do these every once in a while, and I might do some more themed classic shaves in the future. There are well, there's some interesting personalities in our little shaving YouTube world, and I love getting to know everyone's eccentricities, their the way that they feel about things, and so we might have to do some personal shout out shaves in the future. because they're really some characters. I'll give the example of something without mentioning the person by name. Which, I mean, this example is not shaving specific. It could just be personality also. You know, a difference in their personality compared to mine. But anyway, there's a person out there, and they were talking about this new shaving soap and aftershave they got, and they were so upset that they didn't like it. And they just kept saying, oh man, this isn't really great, and this is such a shame. I mean, they weren't being like mean. Like they weren't being negative toward the people who made it, but they were just so upset that they didn't really like love this thing that they got, and it kind of cracked me up. And I mean, it's like, okay, I get it, you don't like it, but you need to say it 20 times in a 10-minute video, you know. And again, the world needs those people too. Because I am certainly not that kind of person. So after 2 passes, this is a pretty close shave. I don't feel much when I go kind of, you know, north to south, but I can feel a little bit when I go up. So let's clean some of that up here in our final 3rd pass. Let's definitely gather up a little more soap here, maybe, I don't know, 5 seconds or something. Probably gonna be fine. Okay, here we go. Let's try it out. Here we go, final 3rd pass against the grain mostly with the Everready Sun Gray. Don't really have too much of a professional update, kind of on the same schedule that I have been for months now. Which is great. I mean, I don't know, I'm on almost 2 months in a row of always having some kind of private thing to play on the weekend, which is definitely a good thing. I'm not complaining at all. I think some people who aren't familiar with the music business, they don't realize just how many things can change from gig to gig for us. Like for example, if you think about the idealistic 4-piece rock band who tours the world, and they play in huge auditoriums and amphitheaters, and they've got roadies and all this. And I mean, that's nice, but that's not most of us. Those are sort of well, maybe it's a little more than 1%, but it's somewhere between 1 and 5%, I would say, of gigs are like that. The rest of us, we do kind of a wider variety of contexts in terms of the actual people we're playing with. I usually play with different people every weekend. I know a couple people, but I'm always meeting somebody each weekend, I should say, on the gig. Which again, I think that freaks some people out because they're like, well, how can you play together if you've never met before? And while that is a valid concern, I would say for the type of music that we have to play, we are professionals. It'll be okay. So anyway, even though in some ways it may seem like, I mean, so while I'm doing the same type of gig every weekend, there's just always something different. And that's what makes it fun to me. I mean, playing is fun too, and I don't take that for granted, especially after last year. Playing is definitely fun, but there's just something about the whole process too, you know? And I am definitely one who, again, as I said, I enjoy the process just as much as I do the playing. I got a little bit disenchanted with playing after doing so much of it for several years there. That last year really made me realize that I missed the process. Wow, that is a great shave. Fantastic. Skin feels, you know, a little bit dry, I'm not gonna lie, but it took no effort whatsoever to get that soap going, and that's what it's supposed to be like. So stick with me, I'll be right back, and we'll do our final thoughts over post-shave. Okay, we did our final rinse, and then now let's finish off with, what is this? If you've been watching my channel for some time, you know that this is an Avon decanter. It says Avon on the bottom. It used to have Wild Country, which is one of their scents, but now it's got vintage Aqua Velva Ice Blue, which is awesome. And again, also a gift from the same person who gifted me the soap, right? Soap, aftershave, yeah, nice. So thank you, man. It is blue, and I try to be conservative the amount of this I use. Ice Blue is a great scent. It's in the Chypre family, if that means anything to you, but to me it just smells fresh, comfortable, and it's got just a touch of menthol too, which is really nice. It's not overpowering at all. So that's it, the vintage Aqua Velva Ice Blue, and I'm certainly enjoying this decant of it, but when it's gone, it'll be gone. Okay, let's do a final rundown of what we used. We used the Ever-Ready Sunray 1912. You absolutely do not need to get one of these. It doesn't shave any differently than the other 1912s, but 1912 shave very well. And if you get one with a strong spring, this one certainly has a strong spring to it. That may or may not help hold the blade down better, and so that's what you want. The Ever-Ready Sunray, beautiful razor. The Omega 8 something boar brush, look in the description for the number. Really not bad. Works great in this kind of mug configuration with the Old Spice mug, but with the Colgate inside, because you can't have too big of a brush. I mean, I guess you could, but it would just seem kind of tedious to me. And then finally, that was it, right? Yeah, we did it. So again, thank you all so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed these classic kind of shaves. Let me know if you have any requests for other kind of classic shaves, or just any requests in general. I'd be happy to fulfill them. Right, thank you all. This is HG Shaves. Take care. See you next time. Goodbye.